Hello, Binnie.
Hello.
I know that you have been visiting Estonia many times, and you're coming from England here, and you have been traveling also in other places. And as I know, you're doing breathwork. Can you tell me what is your passion to do in the world and in the life? What you would like to share with all people?
Well, what I'd like to share with all people and what I teach is about the effects of birth and how birth affects every aspect of life, and also how we can use the breath, which is our fundamental life force, to help us to reveal and heal those wounds that we may be carrying deep inside. My work is called Source Processing Breathwork, and I've been teaching that for more than 30 years now. And I've been teaching in Estonia every 2 months for I think 8 or 9 years, since 2003. And then we've had a training going since 2004.
What draws you here to Estonia so many times?
Well, guidance many years ago, I received guidance that said you must wait for the invitation. And I was invited. First by Lena Christina Tulse to come with her and to teach with her. And then Lembe Allik came to England and asked me to come and teach a training here.
It's very wonderful. I would like to introduce a topic, rebirth, and to look to it more closely. Can you tell, do you remember your own birth and how it felt?
I have remembered my own birth in segments. I don't think anybody remembers their entire birth all at one time, because I think it would be much too impactful. And over time, I have remembered many different aspects of my own birth, and it was exceedingly painful.
What made it so painful?
Well, I think probably the fact that my mother was wholly unconscious. She had been drugged and she was terrified, so she was holding on, and neither of us had the benefit of the beta endorphins that are available, the natural painkillers. So it took many, many hours before they actually just anesthetized her completely. So then I laid in the birth canal for quite a long time. And I remember these things. And then they pulled me out with forceps. Because apparently my heart rate was going down. That I learned from outside. But over the years, I developed migraines. I developed a lot of sinus problems, back and neck problems, all of which began to heal as I remembered and focused my attention on healing, releasing and healing those memories of the forceps, and then the memories of being separated from her.
So it's very essential to keep the contact or not separation with your mother.
I think that is the ultimate wound. We spend 9 months in the body of another being. That's a long time. And we're also water mammals. So to come forth and encounter a whole new atmosphere. I mean, the sensory experience is just astounding. And in most modern births, it happens very quickly. You know, everybody wants it to get on with it, you know? So babies don't necessarily always have the opportunity to integrate the cold. It's very hot water in there. You know? And breathing in air for the first time because the lungs open. They've never been used before. So blood flow changes. There's so much going on. Bright light, we see very differently. We see in utero, but it's very different. And the sounds. So we encounter a sensory experience that for many babies, I know is an overload of the senses. And in that impactful time, to then be separated from the only body and mind, congruent heartbeat that we have ever known, is a tragedy. And I think that it shows up in all of society. It shows up in so many of our patterns with one another. The expectation of separation.
As I understood, many problems happen because there is so much unconsciousness during birth, giving birth, and also we are not aware what newborn senses when he or she comes to this world. How is your understanding, how could be a good way how we can treat the birth?
The ideal birth?
I don't know if ideal birth exists, but certainly we can do something that it would be very enjoyable to both the mother and the child.
Well, I think the ideal is for the mother and the father to acknowledge the consciousness of the baby that they are carrying together. And to know that this is a sentient, decision-making being, not necessarily sophisticated decisions, and certainly non-verbal, but decisions nonetheless, and that they acknowledge its consciousness and move toward being as awake to having it be gentle for everyone involved, for it being conscious for everyone involved. One of the ways to do that is to remember one's own birth in many ways. Whether it's just simply sitting down and speaking to parents and saying, how was my birth? And finding out what you can learn from your own birth experience. Many people do a process, my process, source, process, and breath work, where in a gentle inquiry and the working with the breath, we remember some of these pieces of our births. We remember and actually open up untapped resources within ourselves. We remember everything. And we carry it in the limbic system. In the limbic system, the emotional brain. The emotional brain is the part of the brain that remembers everything. It's the part of the brain that we share with all mammals. And it's a part of the brain that does not have verbal communication. The body speaks for the emotional brain. So many people believe that it's actually the subconscious, and the body is expressing the subconscious.
You have many students. Do these students give birth without pain and complication, and have maybe even ecstatic birth?
Not always, and in many cases, yes, they do. You see, pain, I think, is a function of resistance. So if a person is moving into an experience, saying yes and thank you to what's happening in the body and all the energy that's moving through the body, then the experience of that is very different than if they expect pain and resist pain. Labor is a very intense process, exceedingly intense. There's a lot of energy moving through the body, and actually the largest organ in any human body is pushing another human being into the world. So there is expansion that must take place, there is contraction that must take place, and I think that the expectation that this is not going to hurt or it's not going to be a challenge can get in the way of surrendering to it and opening to it. Ecstasy is not, in my verbiage, in my cosmology, ecstasy is not the absence of feeling. I think because of the way most people have been born, we're terrified of feelings. We're terrified of the energy that's moving in our bodies. We're afraid from our first experience where mothers were afraid. We experience pain. And so consequently, that's something that needs to be dealt with, I think, during pregnancy or before conception, for a woman to actually have the experience of a large amount of energy moving in her body and addressing it, opening to it, and allowing it to become pleasurable. Ecstasy is opening to all the experience that's going on. We always move to non-ordinary states when we allow ourselves to open to all of our energy.
This is fascinating. Next, I would like to address subject of pregnancy. Do you also remember how did you feel inside mother? Did you felt how she thought or how she felt, and how was in this to be in this environment?
Well, how it is to be in that environment is warm, hot, and held, and we are becoming. So my experiences of being in creation, every moment a new moment, in the now, if you will. I will give you a little example of something that happened for me, and I realized so very clearly that I was conscious during pregnancy and learning. My mother was on site building a house. She wasn't actually hammering the nails, but she was, my parents were building their first home when my mother was pregnant with me. So she was there every day, you know, working with the architect and working with the builders. And she was a very artistic and creative woman. And so then I came into the world. My greatest interest as a child was color, very fascinated with color, drawing, design of all forms. And I eventually went to design school and became a designer, graduated from one of the top design schools in the United States. And then and actually, as a child, and up to my high school years, I wanted to be an architect. And I was very, very interested in interior design. Then I found out that it dealt with plumbing, so I didn't want to have anything to do with plumbing. Anyway, I became a clothing designer, but also I did a lot of interior design. And then, along the way, I ended up teaching a design course with a friend of mine who was an architect. I for a year and a half, taught design in an architecture school. So this influence, I know the influence of my mother, the influence of my gestation period, was there for sure.
So what happens during pregnancy, it has so deep impact?
Yes, it does. I've been working now for more than 30 years, supporting people to realize that how they move through a pregnancy, how they address that pregnancy, how they honor this being who's in creation and co-creating with them, will influence that being's whole life and their lives as well. You see, the opportunity for a pregnant couple is to be in that creative process, is to be aware of the awakening that's taking place and the opportunity for them to use that energy to create new ways of being together in relationship with one another, as well as, you know, the becoming parents is such a phenomenal experience. It's not just a heavy responsibility. You know, my definition of responsibility is the ability to respond to the creative process in you.
When you started to do the breathwork and you became aware of your mother who was building house and the influence of that to your life, when this information was revealed to you, did you lose the interest toward this form and color and architecture and design?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Did it become bigger?
Oh, it became much bigger.
Oh.
I see, my whole creative energy opened. You know, I've always, because I work privately with people, and I've always worked with a lot of creative people who are artists and designers and actors and writers. This is one of, for me, to support the creative process in other human beings is probably my greatest joy. Some of them have babies in their bodies, and that is a creative process, but others have books in their minds, you know, and in their souls that need to come out.
Do you think that people have something like purpose in their life which they have chosen themselves before, maybe even before conception, or which they feel clearly that they have to carry out in this world? And if yes, then could it happen that something that mother does during the period of pregnancy is conflicting to that? What do you think of this?
I think we choose our parents. I personally deeply have a knowing about that. And so consequently, whatever mother does is just exactly the right thing for what that being needs to learn and for that being's path. So I don't necessarily like to indulge in they've done it wrong. I do support, and this is one part of my very intense and important part of my work, is to support people to heal those wounds or challenges that they faced so that they can get on with their life's purpose, because I know that we all have that as well. I think every human being's true purpose is to serve, that we come forth in love to serve, and that our greatest service is to be able to be wholly present where we are, responding in the moment. Now, because of the impact of our births and early childhood and all the cultural demands and that we have had, we have lots of layers, I think, on top of remembering our own authentic being, the one who chose to come here. And that's what my work is about. I think it's to support people to reveal and heal the challenges, and then to reveal and express authentic purpose.
Next, I would like to talk about conception, how we have been conceived. Is it possible to remember that also?
Yes, I think so.
Do you have some memories of that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell something how it could be felt?
Well, it's very experiential. I've seen pictures in a hypnotherapy session many years ago. I had a very clear picture of the room and was able to ask my mother at the time, and she was shocked that, you know, I did know certain aspects of the room my parents were in. And this is very intimate, and yet I know that it would be okay with her to say that she was in pain. It hurt her when I was conceived. And she loved my father very much, and he loved her very much.
Did you also remember the feelings of that?
The feeling nature of that is lots of light. Not a distinct physical feeling that I can describe to you. My sense of it is light.
It is like your experience yourself as light.
Yes.
I think when there is this nice feeling of being light, it also gives some good supporting pattern to life. Is it so?
I think so. You know, I think it's very important to acknowledge ourselves as beyond flesh and bone, to acknowledge ourselves as consciousness before birth, during the creation and the co-creation of this physical body, and to remember that who we are is spirit in form, that we are all consciousness that is co-creating all the time. And that process is very highly creative.
Do you also have some suggestion or idea how could be like conscious conception? What would be most supportive to the soul, maybe, who is going to be in this world? Like, should parents call this spark of consciousness before they give conception to him or her? Or
well, there are no shoulds. You know, I don't think. I have enormous respect for couples who are so aware, so conscious about themselves and their spiritual nature that they sense the presence of another being, one or the other of them, and that they are open to receive that being. Many women have shared with me that they have had this experience of knowing that there was a consciousness that wanted to come through them, that wanted to come to be with them, and that then the sharing of that is not, oh, we will conceive a child this night or this day. And that the awareness and the invitation is conscious in each of the parents. That, I mean, what a blessing for a human being. What a true blessing to know that, you know, and to come into that. My parents wanted me very, very deeply. They had no concept of conscious conception. And I know that I was welcome and actually have been always welcome. So it's another thing that I'm very conscious about teaching and being with people, being with pregnant couples and being just with human beings, this sense of welcome that is so very, very important.
I would like to next address the topic of remembering. And why most people are not able to remember birth, natal period, or conception. What is blocking our memory?
Very often pain. The desire never, ever to experience that sensory overload ever again. So, and the pain of separation, the intensity of the experience of being separated from the only body and mind we've ever known. So we cut off. I mean, there are certain things that, physiological things that happen in that sense of rage and sense of overload, sense of exploding. You know, I never want to feel that again. and I freeze on that. Many people believe that you don't remember anything past 3. And in a general sense, that's true. I think we, for most people, it's important to have guidance. It's important to have just a context for the remembering, because we are holding those memories and we're actually revealing them physically in different ways. Physical ailments, our responses or reactions to things, but in terms of remembering specifics, of course not, because we were told we didn't, and we don't. So it's important, I think, to be in the context of we will remember, we can remember. We have the memory in every cell of our bodies.
So the memory is not in the brain?
No.
It's in the cells?
Yes.
Then what's the use of brain?
The brain is a storage unit, and made up, the brain keeps the body functioning. The brain remembers all experience. The neocortex and the prefrontal cortex gives us language and the skill to express what we know, and to be, the prefrontal cortex, the newest parts, the angel lobes, they call them, give us the ability to be altruistic, to care about others. These are, the brain has developed step by step by step and evolved. And the integration of all of it is very exciting, and part of what we're learning about brain development just in the last few years is very exciting in terms of this whole idea of remembering our births, remembering our evolution. It is possible. We know that it's possible. Mystic experiences that have been termed mystic experiences over the years are actually have foundation in fact and in research.
Can every individual remember their birth and period of pregnancy and or natal period, and also maybe even conception? Is it available to everybody?
Absolutely. It's a choice.
Can you tell about the method that you're using? It is, although it's breathwork, but it's also like cleansing the memory.
Well, the system that I've developed, called Source Process and Breathwork, is made up of query process work, questions, very specific questions designed to support revelation. Deepening work. Deepening is a guided visualization that is based on the breath, using the breath as a way in and induction, if you will. And then very specific connected breathing process. So all three of these support the revelation, the revealing of memory held in the body, and then the healing of that, the release, and the opening of that untapped resource of energy. Because, you know, when something dramatic or traumatic happens to us, we hold. And then if we don't want to experience an emotion or a feeling, push it down. We just hold back. Well, we have so much untapped energy available to us for healing our bodies, for healing other people. And this is one of the great advantages of doing this work, is to come to a place where, you know, you have as much available energy flowing as possible.
For this method, two people need also have a guide or teacher, or can they do it on their own? Or at the beginning one way, and when they're experienced they can do on their own? How is it?
Well, it happens in many different ways. I mean, I think that specific to my work, I think it's important to have a guide in the beginning. This is very deep, very personal work. And what is essential for every human being, I think, before they reveal themselves or to another human being, is that they know that they're safe and supported, which rules out, I'm alone and separate and I'll do this all by myself. It's wonderful to surrender into the consciousness of another person who has been there, who has moved on this path and remembered. So, of course, I mean, there are many people who reveal dramatic or dramatic experiences that have triggered or evoked a memory of birth. And if you want to do it gently and lovingly and create sustainable change and transformation in your life, then I suggest a guide, someone who's been there, someone who can support you to move through whatever those deep valleys are. And then, of course, you know, breathing and using the connected breath is my form of meditation very often, not always. I have different forms that I use. And one of them is working with my connected breath. I'm always doing that, but then I've been focusing my attention on it for 30 years.
Are there any dangers in this method? Because some people, maybe they haven't tried it, but refer, for example, to hyperventilation, or maybe I have experienced that sometimes there could be so intense emotion that I cannot handle that on my own. Are there any danger in these methods, or something to be aware of?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons to have a guide, number one. Number two, you will never, ever have an experience that you're not ready for. It just actually doesn't happen. Now, if I think I'm not ready for this, then I shut down. So, opening to higher and higher levels of energy, I think it's extremely important to have support. There isn't a danger in it. We all breathe, do we not? And we all experienced and survived, quite possibly, the most dramatic and traumatic experience we've ever had. And that was our births. I love to remind people, you survived your birth. There is life after birth.
How about hyperventilation?
Well, hyperventilation is just somebody who's been underventilated for so long that they're overventilating. The truth is, most hyperventilation is triggered. Is having an old birth memory triggered, a panic, a fear for the physical that is triggered. Now, in a source process of breathwork session, you're lying down. Should you hyperventilate, you will be encouraged to continue to breathe, and that you will be told that you are safe, and it's true. You will be safe to continue to breathe, to open the breath so that you move to a state of peace in your body. I have worked several times with people who were in a state of hyperventilation out in public. I mean, out one before a theater performance. And I simply spoke with her very quietly and very gently and breathed with her and encouraged her to continue to breathe and to open and let her know that her body was safe, even though she was terrified. Even though you may be afraid for what might happen to your physical body, it's safe. And it actually knows how to heal if you give it the space.
Do you think this work, what you do, should be also integrated into the education system? Because this is really very life-changing stuff, what you do and teach. And also, as I understood, the period of pregnancy, it is also sort of education, because we are so receptive and we can plant so much positive things or information in this body or this person who is going to born.
Well, those people who know about the various brain waves, level of brain waves, will really be moved, I think, by the fact that babies in utero from about 4.5 months until the age of 6, we are operating at the level of theta brainwaves, which is the level of non-ordinary states, and the level at which we learn, that we absorb. You're absolutely correct. Education begins before birth. How it is, the most important education, how it is to be alive, how it is to interact with other people. We're always with Mother, always, before we're born. We're there with her when she's having an argument with the butcher, and we're there when our parents are making love, or when they're not. And all of our mother's thoughts and feelings about all of that. And then after birth, and all of the things that are going on around us. So we're being educated about how is it to be alive. And I think one of the most important things for a a child to know is that there is someone here for them and that there is someone who's listening. Now, I've had many over the years, people in my trainings. I've been teaching these trainings in Germany and England and Denmark for more than 20 years. The one in Denmark is 20 years old. And over those years, and here in Estonia as well, I've had teachers, women and men who teach at the university level and who teach at the elementary level. And many of them have taken aspects of the work back to the classroom with them. Mostly it is about listening. It's about teaching children to be conscious that their bodies are safe, that how they're feeling is okay. Feelings, I think, are energy, is simply energy registering in the physiology. How we think about those sensations, how we think about that energy, is the way we will experience it and the way we describe it. I can say, I'm angry, or I can say, I'm exploding with energy. If I declare that I'm angry, then I have to find a reason for that. You know, you hurt me, or I did something wrong, or, always involves a sense of helplessness, really. When I just simply describe the sensations in my body and then say what I'm thinking, sometimes is very, very different. And that's a wonderful thing to do with children. Wonderful thing to do with children. It's like, oh, I hurt her, I'm angry. And it's just tell me how your body's feeling, And they get in there and they're like, oh, my leg hurts and I've got this pain in my belly and I'm crying. And you bring it to the level of simple physical sensation. And then you're in relationship with your body. Then you can get in touch with what you really want to express. I love you. That's the bottom line.
Do you think the source breathwork can be also used at schools, and on what age this could be done? Can children do it, or is it from some age on?
Well, I think children can do it. I've worked with children younger than 8 or 9 need to also be there with their mothers. It's different, the way of working. And then past the age of 8 or 9 years old, children release very quickly. They get it instantly. So, absolutely. Children are magical. That's the truth.
Thank you for this interview, and hopefully we see you soon again.
Good. Thank you.